She stood there, her belly swollen with new life, a life that couldn't possibly be his. 7 months had passed since their divorce was finalized, yet the sight of Emma pregnant hit David like a physical blow. Their eyes locked across the crowded farmers' market, and in that moment, everything he thought he knew about their failed marriage shattered. What happened next would change both their lives forever, proving that sometimes the greatest misunderstandings come from the words we never say. If you're enjoying this story of love, loss, and unexpected second chances, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more emotional journeys that remind us how fragile human connections can be. David hadn't planned on becoming a single father at 34. The divorce had blindsided him, coming after 3 years of what he thought was a happy marriage. Emma had simply said she needed space and couldn't do this anymore. He'd been left with their 2-year-old daughter Lily in a house full of memories that haunted him each night after he tucked his little girl into bed. He'd thrown himself into fatherhood, determined to give Lily the stability she deserved. His days revolved around daycare drop-offs, work at the architectural firm, and evenings spent building pillow forts and reading bedtime stories. Dating wasn't even on his radar. How could it be when his heart still belonged to the woman who had walked away? That Saturday morning had started like any other. Lily had woken him at dawn, climbing into his bed with her favorite stuffed rabbit clutched in her tiny fist. "Daddy, market day," she'd announced, bouncing on the mattress. The farmers' market had been their weekend tradition since the divorce, something just for the two of them. David never expected to see Emma there. In the 7 months since she'd moved out, they'd communicated only through lawyers and brief text messages about Lily's schedule. He certainly never expected to see her pregnant. Time seemed to slow as he processed what he was seeing. Emma stood by a stall of fresh flowers, one hand resting protectively on her rounded belly. She looked radiant, her chestnut hair longer than when he'd last seen her, her face glowing with that unmistakable pregnancy luminescence. Beside her stood a tall man with his hand on the small of her back. "Mommy." Lily's excited squeal cut through David's shock. Before he could stop her, his daughter had broken free from his grip and was running toward Emma. Emma's face transformed with joy as she knelt awkwardly to embrace Lily. When she looked up and saw David approaching, her expression shifted to something unreadable. Fear? Guilt? He couldn't tell. "Hi, David," she said softly, straightening up with Lily now clinging to her leg. "Emma." His voice sounded strange even to his own ears. "You're pregnant." The man beside her shifted uncomfortably. "I'll go get the car," he murmured to Emma before nodding politely at David and walking away. "Who's that?" David asked, unable to keep the edge from his voice. "My brother, Jake. He's visiting for the weekend." Emma tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, a nervous habit he remembered well. David's eyes remained fixed on her belly. "How far along are you?" 6 months, she replied, and something in her tone made him look up at her face. 6 months. They'd been divorced for 7. The math didn't add up, unless... "Is it mine?" The words escaped before he could stop them, harsh and demanding in the cheerful bustle of the market. Emma's eyes widened with hurt. "Of course it's yours, David. Who else's would it be?" The accusation in his question hung between them, ugly and irretrievable. In that moment, David made the mistake that would haunt him for months to come. Instead of asking why she hadn't told him, instead of processing the shock with grace, he let anger take over. "Were you ever going to tell me? Or did you just plan to raise my child without me knowing they existed?" His voice rose, drawing glances from nearby shoppers. Emma's face hardened. "I tried to tell you, David. I called you 3 times after I found out. You never called back." "What are you talking about? I never got any calls from you." "Check your blocked numbers," she said quietly. "You blocked me after the divorce, remember? Said it would be easier that way." The memory hit him like a bucket of cold water. He had blocked her number in a moment of pain after signing the divorce papers, wanting to avoid drunk dialing his ex-wife in moments of weakness. He'd forgotten all about it since they'd been communicating through other channels. I left messages with your assistant at work, Emma continued. I even sent a letter to your office. David remembered the pile of mail that had accumulated on his desk during the Anderson project. He'd been working 14-hour days for weeks, barely making it home in time to relieve the babysitter. Had her letter been in that stack he'd eventually tossed into his desk drawer, intending to sort through it later? I thought you didn't want me to know, he said, his anger deflating into confusion. Why wouldn't I want you to know about your own child? Emma's voice cracked. I left because I needed space to figure things out, not because I stopped loving you. Lily tugged at Emma's hand. Baby in there, Mommy? She asked, pointing to Emma's belly. Emma's expression softened as she looked down at their daughter. Yes, sweetheart. You're going to be a big sister. David watched this exchange, his mind racing. Why did you leave, then? If you still loved me? Emma sighed, looking suddenly exhausted. This isn't the place, David. Not with Lily here. Then when? Where? You're carrying my child, Emma. A child I didn't know existed until 5 minutes ago. Tomorrow. Come to my apartment. We can talk while Lily naps. She gave him her address, a place in the city he'd never visited. That night, after putting Lily to bed, David sat in his home office and stared at his phone. He navigated to his blocked numbers list and there it was, Emma's number, blocked 7 months ago in a moment of heartbreak. He unblocked it and immediately 3 voicemail notifications appeared. With shaking hands, he pressed play on the first message, dated 5 months ago. David, it's me. I know we agreed to minimal contact, but I need to talk to you. It's important. Please call me back. The second, a week later, David, please call me back. I'm pregnant. It happened right before I left. I need to talk to you about this. Please. The third, 2 weeks after that, I've tried reaching you at work. I even sent a letter. I don't know if you're ignoring me or if you're just not getting these messages. I'm having your baby, David. I'm keeping it. I thought you should know. David put his head in his hands, overwhelmed by regret. How different things might have been if he'd simply unblocked her number, if he'd checked his mail more carefully, if he'd told his assistant to put Emma's calls through no matter what. The next day, he arrived at Emma's apartment with Lily in tow. It was a small but bright space, filled with plants and colorful artwork. Nothing like the minimalist aesthetic of their shared home. Nice place, he said awkwardly as Emma took Lily to the spare bedroom where she'd set up a nap area. When she returned, they sat across from each other at her small kitchen table, 2 mugs of tea between them like a buffer. I'm sorry, David began. I should have checked my blocked calls. I should have been more accessible. Emma nodded, accepting his apology without comment. I should have tried harder to reach you. Maybe come to the house. Why didn't you? She looked down at her tea. Pride, I guess. And fear. I was afraid you'd think I was using the pregnancy to try to get back together. Were you? Trying to get back together? Emma met his gaze. I don't know. Maybe. I've had a lot of time to think about why I left. I still don't understand that part, David said. You said you needed space, but you never explained why. Emma took a deep breath. Do you remember the night before I left? We had that fight about your work hours. David nodded. It had been a relatively minor argument by their standards. He'd missed dinner again because of a client meeting. It wasn't really about your work hours, Emma continued. It was about feeling invisible. For months, I'd been trying to tell you I was unhappy, that I felt like we were drifting apart, but you never seemed to hear me. You'd nod and say, I know, babe, and promise to do better, but nothing ever changed. I was trying to provide for our family, David defended himself. I know that. But somewhere along the way, you stopped seeing me as your partner and started seeing me as just Lily's mom. We stopped talking about anything meaningful. We stopped touching each other unless it was leading to sex. We stopped being friends. David wanted to argue but found he couldn't. She wasn't wrong. Somewhere in the daily grind of work and parenthood, he'd lost sight of their relationship. The night I left, I told you I was thinking about going back to school for my master's degree, and you said, "Whatever makes you happy, Emma." But you were checking your email while you said it. You didn't even look up. Emma's voice was steady, but her eyes shimmered with unshed tears. That's when I knew you wouldn't miss me if I was gone. Not the real me, anyway. You'd miss having someone to help with Lily and keep the house running, but you wouldn't miss me. The truth of her words hit David like a physical blow. He had been taking her for granted, assuming she'd always be there while he focused on building his career. "I missed you every day," he said quietly. "Not just for help with Lily or the house. I missed your laugh. I missed the way you always know what I'm thinking before I say it. I missed watching terrible reality TV with you and hearing you sing in the shower." A tear slipped down Emma's cheek. "I missed you too. More than I expected to." "Then why didn't you come back?" "Because nothing had changed. You hadn't changed. I hadn't changed. We would have fallen right back into the same patterns." She placed a protective hand on her belly. "And then I found out about the baby, and everything got more complicated." "What do we do now?" David asked, feeling completely out of his depth. "I don't know," Emma admitted. "Co-parent, I guess. Like we've been doing with Lily." The thought of another child shuttling between two homes made David's chest ache. "Is that what you want?" Emma was quiet for a long moment. "No," she finally said. "It's not what I want. But I don't see another option." "What if?" David hesitated, then pushed forward. "What if we tried again? Not moving back in together right away, but dating. Getting to know each other again." Hope flickered across Emma's face before she tamped it down. "David, we can't just pick up where we left off. I'm not suggesting that. I'm suggesting we start over. Do it right this time." He reached across the table and took her hand. "I love you, Emma. I never stopped. And I think you still love me too." "Love was never our problem," she said softly. "It was everything else. Then let's fix everything else. I'll go to therapy. I'll cut back my hours at work. I'll do whatever it takes to be the partner you deserve." Emma looked skeptical. "You're just saying that because of the baby." "No, I'm saying it because these past 7 months without you have been the worst of my life. Finding out about the baby just made me realize I can't waste any more time pretending I'm okay without you." Their conversation was interrupted by Lily's voice calling from the bedroom. Emma went to get her, and David used the moment alone to gather his thoughts. He was asking for a second chance he wasn't sure he deserved, but he had to try. When Emma returned with a sleepy-eyed Lily, David stood up. "Have dinner with me next Friday. My mom can watch Lily. Just one date, to see if there's still something worth saving." Emma hesitated, then nodded. One date. That date turned into 2, then 3. They talked more openly than they ever had during their marriage, addressing the issues that had driven them apart. David started seeing a therapist to work on his workaholic tendencies and emotional availability. Emma shared her fears about becoming a mother of 2 and her dreams of finishing her education. 3 months later, as Emma's due date approached, David proposed a compromise. He would move into Emma's spare bedroom for the first month after the baby was born, to help with night feedings and give Emma a chance to recover. No pressure, no expectations beyond co-parenting. Emma agreed, and when their son James was born on a snowy December morning, David was by her side, holding her hand through every contraction. The moment he held his son for the first time, he made a silent promise never to take his family for granted again. Living together in Emma's small apartment was challenging. There were arguments about dirty dishes and midnight feedings and whose turn it was to take Lily to daycare. But there was also laughter, and honest conversations late at night while feeding the baby, and moments of unexpected tenderness. One night, as David was preparing to move back to his own place as agreed, Emma found him packing his clothes. "Do you have to go?" she asked quietly. David looked up, surprised. "That was our agreement. 1 month. What if I want you to stay? Do you?" Emma nodded, tears filling her eyes. "I'm still scared we'll mess it up again. But I'm more scared of not trying." David crossed the room and took her in his arms, careful of her still healing body. "We might mess up again," he admitted. "But we'll mess up together, and we'll fix it together." 6 months later, they renewed their vows in a small ceremony in Emma's parents' backyard. Lily scattered flower petals down the aisle, and baby James slept peacefully in his grandmother's arms. In his vows, David promised not just love and fidelity, but presence, attention, partnership. Emma promised patience and honesty, to speak her truth even when it was difficult. Their second chance hadn't come easily. It had required humility, forgiveness, and the willingness to do the hard work of rebuilding trust. But standing there with his family, his complete family, David knew that some things were worth fighting for, even when all seems lost. Sometimes, the greatest love stories aren't about perfect people finding each other, but imperfect people choosing each other, again and again, even after seeing the worst parts. David and Emma's story wasn't about a fairy tale romance, it was about the messy, complicated reality of two people learning how to grow together instead of apart. And it all began with a chance encounter at a farmer's market, a pregnant belly, and the courage to say what needed to be said, even when it hurt. If this story touched your heart, please like and subscribe for more tales of love, loss, and redemption. Remember that sometimes the greatest misunderstandings come from the words we never say, and it's never too late for a second chance at love.